critics continue to play havoc with efforts to get new legislation on the table. Democratic strategist Maria Cardona and GOP strategist Danny Vargas are here to discuss both sides of this issue. I say good morning to you both before we start, because you obviously represent different political viewpoints on this subject itself, and the gulf between those viewpoints is something the president is trying to narrow down. Not having a lot of success on either side of this, though. A lot of people say that this speech in Texas is just for show. So, Danny, why is there so much skepticism?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. I think, first of all, we can point to the fact that candidate Obama in 2008 made a specific promise to the Hispanic community that he would address immigration reform in his first year. He did not, and that goes along with a number of other broken promises. But I think, second of all, I think we have to be able to recognize the fact that over the last 3 or 4 years, the level of violence and crime, particularly along the southern border, has increased significantly. We've got areas where there's increases in drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking at levels that are just completely unsustainable. We need to get serious about border enforcement, and that's the southern border, the northern border, the ports of entry, before we can move forward on any type of program that reforms the immigration system so that it meets the needs of our security and economy, and to deal with the currently 11 million people that are undocumented in the United States. So border security absolutely has to be at the top of the list.
Maria, one barometer for skepticism is reflected by Latinos in a recent survey. This is according to the polling and research firm Latino Decisions. Nearly 70% of Latinos consider themselves to be Democrats, yet only 38% find the party, quote, very welcoming to them. So can you explain the political ambivalence that we're seeing out of that representation, and what role it might play in the success of any real reform?
Sure, absolutely. Latino voters feel the same frustration that Americans across the board feel, and frankly that President Obama feels every single day that immigration reform doesn't get done. The reason that people are skeptical is because they understand the political realities in Washington, and that you can't get this done as a single party. The president has said from day one, and Danny's right, he's been talking about this since 2008. Where are the Republicans talking about this? They are not here. They do not want to work with President Obama on this because they know that it would be a losing issue for their Tea Party base. And so from the standpoint of trying to get this done, President Obama today is going to be talking about border security. And again, Danny's right, that's a critically important part. But you know what? Our borders are more secure today than they ever have been. The crime that Danny's talking about is actually a myth. Border towns have less crime than the towns that Speaker Boehner comes from in Ohio. So let's just keep those facts straight. So the GOP needs to step up here, because Democrats are on board, labor is on board, business is on board, the Chamber of Commerce is on board, faith leaders are on board. We need the big coalition to come to the table to get this done. Where is the GOP on this?
Let's not forget that it was President Bush several years ago that tried to push immigration reform through Congress, where he assigned 2 of his cabinet secretaries to work on it as a full court press. This President Obama did nothing of the kind during his first year in office, which is something that he promised. The other thing that the Republicans are saying is the fact that we absolutely must have border security as a top priority. We cannot have a situation like we had after 1986, when we passed amnesty under President Reagan, where we did not control the borders, we did not reform the immigration system so that it would meet the needs of our economy. So you had employers that were hiring folks, and we had no workplace enforcement, and that basically enabled a situation where we had droves of people coming across the border and overstaying their visas, creating this 11
but Danny, it seems like we continue. It's like we're in this vicious cycle. So is the biggest criticism here for both of you, Maria and Danny, is that the two sides just can't find a middle ground on such an important issue? And as we talk about what happened in 1986, here we are in 2011, where border security has never been more important. Why can't we find common ground? Maria?
Because the GOP is not willing to. Look at what Danny just said in terms of President Bush supporting this when he was in office. That's absolutely true. Where are the senators that supported this when George Bush are in office? McCain had his own name on a comprehensive immigration bill. And he even said during his campaign that he wouldn't support his own bill. If that is not skepticism and politics for the sake of personal gain and political gain, I don't know what is. That's why Latino voters are so frustrated. The GOP needs to step up to the plate. The president cannot get this done alone. The president has been talking about this for 3 years. We need GOP senators to say, we are present. Where are they?
Danny, do you think they'll be listening today?
Give me one senator that is on board with this.
The The difference today is that over the last 3 or 4 years, the level of violence that's taken place along the border, particularly with regards to the drug cartels, has got the American public completely scared of what the potential is in terms of crime and violence. What we do need to do, I think Maria is absolutely right. We do need to come together and solve one of these vexing issues that should go beyond partisanship, but we do need to come at it from a perspective of we leave ideology and partisanship aside, come together as Americans to solve this big vexing issue, as we would with tax reform, as we would with healthcare reform, as we would with a whole host of other foreign policy related matters, where we absolutely need to come together, put partisanship aside, focus on working together towards solutions.
So since Maria can't disagree with you saying that she was right, we're going to have to leave it there. Maria, Danny, thanks for both joining us today. We appreciate your time. So on a totally